I'm asking that much. Just now go, wind up monkey.
This is a test of the Carnival Personnel Emergency Podcast System. The podcasters in your area, in voluntary cooperation with state, local, and federal authorities, have developed the system to keep you informed in the event of an emergency. If this had been an actual podcast, the rambling you just heard would have been followed by official boos and hisses. This concludes our test of the Carnival Personnel Emergency Podcast System. This is only a test.
No, hold on.
Boo!
Hey, Biff, where do pirates get their books?
I don't know. Where do pirates get their books?
Secondhand stores. Because lots of pirates have the hooks on their hand. You know what? The judges would also accept if that was, where do the Skywalkers get their books? Because on the account of they both...
I thought you wanted to keep this short.
Hey, Biff, how do you organize a space party?
I don't know, Jacques. How do you organize a space party?
You plan it. like a planet Earth and planet. It's a
initiating self-destruct sequence in 5, 4, 3.
This is how Personnel Podcast. It was nice fun. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel Podcast. This is good old buddy Jacques.
Hi, I'm Joe.
Biff might be joining us. That would be delightful. But my absolute no planning last minute. Hey, are you guys as nothing on the schedule and no life going for you as I do? If so, jump on the podcast. And
you have stuff on your schedule. That's why you got to squeeze us in.
I do. I actually just recorded a podcast that will drop next week with a very fun comedian I met in LA the last couple of years out there, Tanisha Scrawl. Very fun follow on the socials. And you know what? Last week I did a really, really fun podcast with Ryan Shea, Boston comedian. Followed him on the socials for quite some time. He's one of those, been doing it for 15 years, has a fun follow on the social medias where he's always putting out tips for comics. And not, hey, this is how you write a better joke, but this is how you stop blaming the audience when your jokes suck kind of tips. A headlining guy, interesting path to becoming a comic. So that was a really, really, really fun talk. I really enjoy, people's stories and how they got to where they're doing this and why they're doing this. And Tanisha, who will be next week's sideshow guest, was that. But yes, lots going on. So we'll get right into it. Joe was nice enough this week to be dragged into another one of my harebrained schemes, my get poor slowly schemes of my exercise in futility of writing another sitcom. And he graciously jumped on the table read. I think you stuck in for the table read and about an hour, the chit chat after that went on for 3, maybe half hour.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was nice. It was, I was surprised you had that many friends, to be honest with you. It was shocking. I want to say some of these were paid actors, but I know you can't afford that. So
they are actors who get paid. It is the weirdest thing I'm about to say. My agent Dante have Golden Artist Entertainment had sent out an email blast to his client list and said, hey, there's one of your Golden Artist brethren has written a script. We're doing a table read. It's really funny. Can you do it at this time? And nobody responded. And Dante and his wife, were the two leads and a couple people. It was going to be about 7 or 8 people. Joe was going to have to read like 4 or 5 1-2 line characters, and then
I only blew 3 of the lines, so I'm proud
lucky
of
lines.
Yeah.
But then the day of, Dante sent out another email, and a good half dozen people, and then here locally, Dave Radigan, who helped me develop this. He sent out an email to some friends who were great. Joni Grassi, who's a comedian I've got to know over the last year. She jumped on. And then she stayed on, and we talked for like 3 hours with about 5 or 6 people. Literally stayed on for 3 hours after that. It was our friend Jenna, a friend of the podcast. So, but thank you. I mean, Joe, thank you. And Joe literally has from step one given me notes and feedback on it. So again, this is something that Joe made infinitely better. But yeah, I think it was fun. An outsider looking in. Did it go well? Did you think it got yucks? Should I just drive my car into the next bridge abutment as I'm going by, or do you think I should follow through with my plans on shooting the sizzle reel this June out in Los Angeles?
I say follow your dreams. It went well, like you said. I think there were laughs to be had. I tried not to, influence the crowd with my laughter. I also didn't want to interrupt the flow of comedy that was being put forth. So I kept it kind of quiet on my end. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite the reel indeed.
I have to say, the highlight of the reading, aside from the hilarious material, friend of the podcast, Jeremy Ship, who ran the table read. He is a professional voiceover guy. He's a longtime writer on a kid show now called Firebuds. He's written on several other kid shows, but professional voiceover guy. But he runs the table read for the TV show he's on now. So for him to step up and do the table read, plus he has one of those voices that you would pay to listen to him read a phone book. And it was great that I could literally hit mute and just sit back and hear the voices come off the pages. You as a writer, you hear things certain ways in your head. And so different actors who put different spins and deliver lines in ways that I didn't write them, but made them better. It really was a fun process. So as always, Joe, thanks you for jumping on that. Next week, as far as comedy goes, I did a show. I did a Radigan show last night. Weird show. Super. If I knew how much fun it would have been, I would not have made Joe go because the show didn't start till 9:30. It was in Milford, Mass, which on the Connecticut border, kind of. So I don't know if you need your passport to get there. It was at a movie theater that's just one screen. I have no idea how it has survived. Thank gosh it has. There's very few of these in the country left. The Elm Street Draft House. Thank you, Drought. My company. I was thinking it for a second there. Draft House. And it was great. And Chris Tabb. So the other two comedians, Matt McArthur I worked with before, great. A guy I have not worked with, PJ Thibodeau, really fun guy. It was also great just talking to another dad my age, his son, a few years older than my oldest, who's a senior in college and a Division III soccer player who took 2 years off of between high school and college to go play professionally in Portugal. So
nice.
So it was great to talk somebody European football and not apologize for calling it football.
Yeah.
But Chris Tabb. Chris Tabb is a New England headliner I got to work with maybe 2 years ago when I kind of started, when Greg Bogus nicely put me up at the Luna Theater. He runs the weekly Saturday show at John Tobin's place at the Comedy Scene in Foxborough. This guy is energy personified. He is very funny, doesn't have a ton of material. It's some of it's crowd work, but it's a lot of off the cuff stuff. And he starts at an 11. Like, I was saying to, I was telling, our friend Wayne Russell on drive home, whose other friend Anthony drives a Tesla. It's like Chris Tabb could power his Tesla for 4 months on one set alone. I mean, and this show starts at 9:30. And Radigan said, again, it's a theater screen. It's an 80-year-old room. There's just, Mike Katroba said, I did it before. It looks like you're doing comedy at a flea market yard sale with a big movie screen behind you. And there's kind of movie props around, and there's kind of, mannequins with kind of, dude, it was kitschy and awesome. But I did it. PJ did his set. Then you take a 20-minute break so people can go order food, because it's like they make their money in the concession, like any movie theater. It holds about 300, but there's about 150. So it didn't feel empty, but it didn't feel. So it's one of those times I did comedy in front of a bigger crowd, but scattered. And the ceiling is honestly movie theater screen high. So it's a huge room. So I think I did well, but then from getting off the stage to getting back, 5 different people like got out of their chairs to come to the aisleway to stop me to say, oh my God, I like this. I really got that. Oh, when you said this, my wife really liked that. It's like, oh, my wife looked at me. She was shaking her head when you said, a couple of things. So it was really fun. But then you take the half-hour break. Matt went on, got the kittens wrangled back in, which is kind of what we say when you take a break in the middle of a comedy show.
Very few intermissions at comedy shows.
Horrible. So Chris Tabb comes straight from Foxborough. He got there, when the intermission was going on, chatted with her a bit. He's going to be a guest. Dude, he fucking gets up there. Oh, so stepping back, Radigan said to me personally, and then in a group text, he goes, well, he's going to introduce Jacques first, and he's going to give him the worst introduction he's ever gotten. It was comically, funnily bad. Like, he wasn't trying to be, but he's like, oh yeah, because he comes over and goes, give me, he asks, tell me some of the stuff you've done, this or that. He goes, I'm not going to remember part of it. If you want to write it down, you can. I wrote down, I've done some USO tours and this and that. But so he goes up, he goes, yeah, he's got a podcast on like a UFA channel or something like that. Like, it's like,
oh my God. He's into UFOs. It's kind of like when I prepare for this podcast.
Yeah, dude. But it was great. It was great. But Chris Tabb goes up there, and it's 11:35, almost 11:40. And for 15 minutes, he half blasts the audience, the theater, and the town of Milford for what kind of bullshit are you trying to pull? It is Black History Month, and you bring up a black comedian at 11:30 midnight, the last day of February, so you can check off the fucking dude. I mean, tears coming out of people's eyes. Just absolute fuck. One black guy, in the audience that he spotted on the way down, it's like made the guy move up because we're in this together. This could go south really bad. And it was just, dude, it was at least 15 to 20 minutes of that, of Black History Month. And he's a black comic half hour before the month is over. And he's like, I saw the posters for the other shows. I saw the movie trailer that was playing before I got in here. I know, Millbury, Massachusetts. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. Now, thank you for paying me in advance. Like, dude, it was just, that guy is, and then he went an hour. So the show started about 9:45 because there's 25 paid people who didn't show up yet. And the guy who owns it goes, well, we can start now. We can wait. And me and the other comics are like, what does it fucking matter? Like it's, where are we going? Like, you know what I mean? If it starts in 10 minutes, starts in an hour, we're all in here. It's all good. So we waited for most of the people to show. So, and then, Chris, because Dave thought, yeah, he'll do a half hour, 35 minutes, dude. And when he was wrapping it up, no one had left. Like, this guy just commands a room. And there was no ebb and flow. It was all flow. Like, he just went. There was no, I'm going to lull you, like, I'm going to take you down this long storytelling thing like I'm doing now with no punch. Dude, it was just all energy and hype and just feeding off like dude, it was great. It was a master's class. It was 65-70% crowd work, energy, just it was 30% crowd work, 35% energy, maybe 50% energy and some prepared stuff. But Chris Tabb is somebody, definitely go see.
All right.
And the tough thing is when he hosts, because he hosts the comedy scene, Tobin's place down there. Dude, as a host, he's bringing you up after doing 10, 15 minutes of that. And Mike, Mike gave me the heads up. He goes, go up there and start as slow as you can and just make a reference it. Like, you know what? I'm going to have to unplug this show and plug it back in. No one. It's like, if I do that, you guys will have a heart attack. Like you can, like, we're going to hit the reset button. So I'm going to unplug everything, give it 30 seconds and plug back in. But he was great. He said he will do the podcast, but I can't wait to do the podcast with Joe in a few weeks because yesterday was a holiday. Yes. Half because I'm a racist, the end of Black History Month. No, but yesterday was a holiday. Not celebrated by a lot in a certain community, but definitely celebrated in my house. Resident Evil 9 dropped.
Mm-hmm.
The first new Resident Evil game in several years. I am not playing it until Monday, tomorrow,
right.
Because I'm an
adult.
adult.
Of the work week. Okay.
Because I'm an adult, I'm taking 2 days off to sit in our basement because we have a TV room in the basement that is window free. And I don't think you should legally be able to play a Resident Evil game in which any hints of daylight can be seen.
Yes.
So I will get up. I will get the boys to school. I will do my morning chores. I will post this podcast, which I've already done because you're listening to it. And then I will be playing Resident Evil until I have to. Because I want to play it 4 or 5 hours uninterrupted and a few, chunks. I've heard from the Carnival Personnel Podcast Resident Evil correspondent, Chris Berrigan. He says, and I quote, not sure. I think this is the best Resident Evil game. This is a guy who named his only child after after the main, villain, and Resident Evil, Albert Wesker. So my son finished it, and he said, top 3. He's going to give it a couple days. He's going to replay it, but right now he's leaning towards top 3. So high praise.
I heard good things about it online.
Am I going to get you to dive in on this one?
Probably not. I mean, the last game I played was Resident Evil 4 Remake, and that was last year, which was 2 years after the remake was released. I didn't finish it, but I enjoyed it. I just, for some reason, I can't dive. I'm not super drawn to survival horror games. I like Doom, like the first person shooter kind of games, but Resident Evil is great. It's just, it's something that I can't find myself getting sucked into anymore. I'm having trouble getting sucked into a lot of video games lately. So, I do appreciate Resident Evil and, the storyline and all that stuff. I just, for some reason, I don't know, I just can't get into it myself, but I'm glad it's out there for folks like yourself to look forward to, new Resident Evil game every so often, even with the remake. Are they going to remake 5? I don't think they need to, but
You know,
DVD.
that,
They
that
will.
we've had that discussion.
What is going on, guys?
Everybody,
Oh, we got,
you
Bob
know,
Hope is here. He's just walking
Oh,
on.
yes,
oh, it is good.
Da, 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 da.
Hello,
It's
it's Biff. Biff,
Yeah.
good to see you. We're just talking. Resident Evil 9 dropped, the first new Resident Evil game in a few years, and
Nice.
it's funny because I had just thought about this the other day. I haven't even played a game like funny enough, I played the old Atari game like for a couple hours a few weeks ago. Joe and I, were talking because I was literally waiting for a meeting to happen. But I haven't played a game in a while. But I was just saying, Biff, I'm taking a couple days off this week because I don't want to play it in spurts, or be pulled away. And also, when I play a Resident Evil game the first couple times, I do not want to rush. Like, I want to find how many Easter eggs I can find before I leave the room and all that. And I don't play games much anymore. I just, because
Joe and I are thinking, right? It must be nice that you could just decide to take whole chunks of your days off and just play video games.
I was just telling him
Uninterrupted.
he's starting playing a video game that takes 60 hours to complete when everybody else does on a Monday morning.
Yeah.
So the thing is, I planned it because the substitute teaching, like, I can only teach so many times before, like, I have to get a different certification type thing, with inside a calendar window. And so I have to kind of stay under that threshold. So I try to do it 3 days a week. And if I have a trip coming up, like, I'll do it 4 or 5 days. You know what I mean? And then the last couple of weeks I've been every day I can. We've had Snowmageddon
if
here.
I have a trip coming up, it's because I have to work on that trip.
No, it is a work trip. I got some work trips coming up for, I like Friday. Well, no, seriously, I have a gig on Friday that is on the Canadian border. It's a 3-hour drive. So yeah, I'm getting, $250 to drive up there. So I make more substitute
Okay,
teaching.
to be fair, I make a lot more than that on my work trip. So
Well, yes, but but do you get paid to stand in front of a room full of strangers and telling them how mean your wife is to you, Biff? There you go.
I do get to stand in front of strangers and talk about other things though, but I get paid a lot more than $250, and I think that's the difference, right? It's like,
Well, okay. So this isn't a job. Comedy is a hobby for me. So do you get paid $250 to let in all those goals in F&H? So check me. Anyway, so getting back to this.
Yeah, whatever. It's the same thing as, do you get paid $250 to, stand on the other side of the red line when you're playing defense?
Why you gotta be like that, Biff?
I don't know why you gotta be like that, Jack.
I want to point out that nobody's getting paid to do this podcast.
I recently, and I debate whether I go back and forth and say this, but recently a comic had asked to get paid to come on, and it is so funny that a couple people knew and a couple other more people know, and somebody else recently goes, "Hey, did somebody ask to come on?" And I'm like, no comment. Anyways, but so I have a dark side to video games other than taking a couple days off work to do it. But here's the most fucked up thing. I, every now and then, decide to look at all my bills because, I don't carry lots of balances.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's on auto pay. But I got something from my credit union the other day saying, hey, we have this new $5 or 5% card balance thing if you have any cards. So I told management gets the same email. I said, hey, let's spend tomorrow night sitting with the computer going over everything and see what we got. My GameStop card, and I sent this to Joe. I think there's only a $300 balance on it. I got something for Christmas for the boys. And it pays, monthly. 39.9% interest it has gone up to.
Oh my God.
39.
Oh my God.
0.9%
Holy crap.
interest.
That's like freaking, like near loan shark rates. Holy
I actually, like I said that. There's a very famous Winter Hill gang, from the Bostons in the 70s and 80s. And I said that. To Joe. I'm like, if I tracked down Whitey Bulger in 1981 and wanted to borrow $1,000, like, what would my interest rate be on pay. Now, I don't know if GameStop would put a bullet in my head and dump me off in a shallow grave at the train stop in, Revere, like Whitey Bulger would. But 39.9% interest. And so many people I've talked to about this, were like, dude, is that even legal? And I'm like, well, the government agency that was poised to oversee it, that was started 6 years ago, has now been gutted. And by gutted, I mean it does not exist. And also, somebody else, a content creator that I follow who's a financial person has been like, okay, make sure that you're not dialing it in and you're looking at every statement you get, because your banks might be charging you fees that you don't have anymore. Like Bank of America got busted for opening accounts that you didn't have and charging fees on them.
Actually, same for Wells Fargo. And in fact, because they gave me a credit card that I never used, but it's like, who did this,
Well, yep. Well, after 9 years, we broke up with Verizon 2 weeks ago, because for the third time in those 9 years, I was getting charged for a phone we didn't have.
Nice.
And I would go in, I would be on the phone. You can't get a human being. I'm not going to bore everybody, but I would be on the phone every month for 2 months. They'd apologize after being transferred 3 or 4 times. They would take it off. I would get a new bill and I would screen grab it, because next month a late fee for that phone would be on the bill, as well. And you can't go into Verizon stores. Like, they will only do it on the phone. So, whether bundling it with our internet at Xfinity will be better in the long run, I don't know. Maybe it will be the same shit with them, but all these junk fees and extra fees. But 39.9% is what my GameStop bill is. So I'm like, yeah, I will get the, so I just paid that off. And then, look, my JetBlue one had gone up. I hadn't looked at that in maybe 6 months, and that's like 31%. So I'm like, yeah, I think I will take advantage of this 5% balance transfer my bank has offered to, to do that. But anyways, yeah, that is so I didn't get, I didn't get Resident Evil. I had to download it because I wanted to go into GameStop, and I didn't get there in time to get a copy. I took a picture of the empty shelf and I said to Joe, well, at least I'm not paying the 39.9% for putting this on my card. Like,
oh my God.
And the game itself is now $90. But anyway, so yeah. So I've kind of been curated gaming. I will get into this Resident Evil game, not like I have in the past, but I will get into it. I'll play it for a couple weeks and then it will go bye-bye. You know what I mean? I'll be happy. I'll get my money out of it. But I can't play it on the weekends, because I was just telling Joe, this Friday, like I said, I have to leave here at 3:00 to drive to the goddamn Canadian border to do a show there. And then the next day, Joe's excited because he's going to get to meet Tony V for the 5th time in Portsmouth, which is only an hour drive. So my weekends are gone doing that stuff. So anyway, so I justify that. But Biff, thank you for jumping on. We're going to get right into it. The Olympics passed.
Yes.
I've already talked about why I didn't watch any of the Olympics. I followed the Olympic hockey only through the prism of a couple internet clips here and there on Instagram, and I'm still on the F&H chat. But I will say, yep. It took about a minute literally, it took about an hour of getting the news that Team USA women's won to reach me. And I was super happy because honestly, I don't mind talking about this. I'm very excited to talk about this. I'm going to say there's a 50-50 chance, and that's better than most people. There's a 50-50 chance my niece might be on the next team.
Right.
She
we've
literally
talked about this, right? I mean, she's a freaking superstar.
Well, the last four summers, she's been one of 20 invites to the Olympic training program. Sad news. She missed 2/3 of this season. She broke her collarbone. So she missed most of her senior year, but luckily she already had signed, like day one of her junior year, she signed her letter for college. So her college is a free ride. The prep school she's at's a free ride. So I follow, the women's hockey. And again, there's really only 2 teams. And those 2 teams have a the Team USA and Team Canada, that rivalry has gone. Maria Dennis, friend of the podcast,
Yep.
1992 was on the first team with a rookie sensation named Cami Granado. I wonder whatever happened to her.
Yeah. She
So
married some freaking, I mean, freaking such a, you know, she might have been a homewrecker. Who knows? I mean, she married, some.
well,
I'm just kidding.
I'm a vegetarian, but I am a big fan of chicken palm, and three people listening to this podcast
Yeah.
get that reference.
Yeah.
But so I followed the women's, and and it was great, and luckily the Boston Fleet plays most of its games right down the street from me, so I'll get to 2 or 3 games a year. However, good for women's hockey, good for PWHL, good for the Boston Fleet. They are now playing more of their games at the Aganis Arena, which is BU's home rink because it's a bigger arena, and they are playing more games at the Boston Garden because attendance have gone up. So it was great to see.
And part of it helps that the Fleet has it kind of sad with expansion. They actually lost a couple of stars, including one Hillary Knight. During last season this year, but still, I mean they're filled with stars. I mean, obviously the Olympic hero Megan Keller is still on Boston Fleet, so Aaron Frankel. So
and the thing is, my boys will always be able to say they were at the first initial championship game, game 1 of season 1. And we were there for that. It's fantastic. So I did. I followed the women. I didn't want to follow the men's hockey because of a lot of reasons, and in fact, specifically, there's a couple guys on the men's team who are just pieces of shit. And are
they brothers?
I look, I will say I got to play tournaments against their dad in 1986 and 87, and that guy was a moving wall. But yes, they are brothers who are absolute pieces of shit. And I don't want to say I was rooting against Team USA, but I wasn't rooting for Team USA.
Yeah. Well, I was rooting for Team Canada, so
but
because, but that's all because of my roots, right? So
right.
Funny, so I actually root for the American women, but the Canadian men, because when I was a kid, right, that's the team that I rooted for. Women's hockey did not exist, and then basically the first time I became cognizant of women's hockey was 1998, and obviously including the aforementioned Cami Granado. I just fell in love with that team. So yeah, and it helped that there's a local star, Angela Ruggiero, on that 98 team. So yeah.
And it is, and again, that rivalry, is mid '90s Red Wings Avalanche.
No, it's not even close. I mean, one of the things that I think happened, I haven't seen it substantiated by a legit, outlet, but my understanding is that I don't know who she was going out with, but Caroline Harvey was going out with a member of Team Canada, and apparently there was a breakup during the Olympics. I think it's potentially, obviously not substantiated by, actual real media, but I mean, I think it's that ugly,
Well, listen, and because accidentally my kids might listen to the podcast, Biff, I'm going to ask you to be a little respectful of my history, but I will just say this. I spent time in Vancouver in the early 2000s.
Right.
Biff and I had a friend who played on the professional league at the time. And the second season up there, that team became the unofficial place where the team USA women's hockey players who were not in college played. There were 7 players on that team who played in the previous Olympics. In that league, the Calgary team was the official Canadian team.
Right.
And they played each other 8 or 9 times. And when I say the level of disdain, and I mean after the games.
Oh, no. I know, because you know what? So, obviously we went to the 2010 Olympics. We didn't see any of the medal games. So we went to the 2010 Olympics. And, maybe 4 or 5 months afterwards, I was in the TSA line, and like behind me was Angela Ruggiero. So I went to talk to her, and I told her, man, your team was so good this year. I really thought you're gonna win that game. And she goes, Oh yeah, I mean, we went in believing that we're gonna, win that game, and then she said, I'm not gonna say what she said
Okay.
because, obviously, not that anybody listens to this, but I'm not gonna out her for some casual conversation she said to some rando. But the disdain she had for the Canadian team and the Canadian, fans, it's just like
Hmm.
the whole thing was just like, yeah,
Legit.
she was
Well,
just oozing with anger and hate. It was just like, you know what? I love it. It's like I love this anger and hate. This is terrific, rivalry.
so that Vancouver team, the first year they didn't have your home flag on your jersey,
Mm.
and the second year they did. And I will say, look, we had a Boston comedian, Mark Riley on this show, who was an NHL ref for a little bit, but a
Right.
and he said, like, and it's true, the racism. It's one of those things where Canada is still very possessive. It is their game, and
Yeah.
that second season, so there was girls from Norway, there were girls from all over the world in that league, but there was so much bias to the teams that have. But after all the games, if they play Toronto, if they there was it was an 8-team league at the time, you would all go to the restaurant together.
Right.
Except Calgary and Vancouver.
Yeah.
And it was like, and you left on different sides of the rink. Like your locker rooms were not on the same side of the rink. And if it was a home Vancouver game, Calgary got on the bus and got the fuck out of Dodge.
Yeah.
Like maybe they had their team dinner an hour away, and it's the same thing. So yeah, that is a legit rivalry.
Yeah.
And it was great to watch. It is.
It
great.
is fast. So I don't know if you know about
it's
this.
amazing hockey.
The thing that kind of blows my mind is that there is, Julie Chu, who was also on the original 1998 U.S. Olympic team, is married to Caroline Ouellette, who is a legendary, she is, one of the Canadian greats. She's in the Hockey Hall. I mean, the Hockey Hall of Fame and everything, right? And they are married. And I think they were both at Harvard, I want to say, together, and shout out to All-Star, they went to that other school. That's where, that kind of crap can happen.
Well, that's known as a safety school, Biff. You can say, safety school.
I mean, apparently, I guess when the two teams play in the tournaments and whatever, apparently they have different rooms to view the games. So.
And if anyone's accidentally listening to the podcast who hasn't seen that game-winning goal, shit, it's just a move.
So I mean,
it's a move, man.
But I mean, for me, right? The first thing I thought was, what the hell is she doing there? Because Megan Keller's a D. I mean, she's an offensive D, but she's a D.
Now,
she's
Biff,
hanging around the opposing.
Wait. Were you not just disparaging me for being a defenseman who lives on the other side of the red line?
No, you know what?
Maybe she was a fan of mine.
She skates from her zone to there. She's not like she's just standing there the whole time.
Look,
the puck's on the other side. I guess it's somebody else's problem to go back. That's not what Megan Keller does.
Hey, that's why you have the big pads back. Okay, no, but that move.
That's not what Megan Keller does.
But that inside out move.
But I mean, I'm just thinking, but I was, and as soon as she made that move, though, I was thinking, oh my God, that Canadian defenseman is going to regret not playing the body.
Yeah.
If she scores here, he goes, oh my God, this is going to be the worst day of that woman's life. It's really bad. It's really sad that my thought isn't, oh my God, what a great goal. I'm thinking, oh my God, that woman is not going to live that play down.
No, I mean, it's an open ice. You got
to play the body. You got to play the body. You got to play the body, and she didn't. She played the puck, and she just totally got. I mean,
who is the guy? The trivia question: who is the guy who wore number 4 before Bobby Orr, who used to play with F and H? Very Canadian name, because Paul Ruger said the best compliment he ever got was from him one day. But he used to tell people, he used to tell the kids, it goes, the puck may go around me, you may go around me, but you and the puck will go around me.
Yeah,
That's
right.
I can still do the French accent, like the French Canadian accent. I'll get canceled for that. But yeah, that goal, man, she did. She inside out at that
goal.
D.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, that's the thing with Team USA. So she's one of the older ones, right? She's one of the vets. She's, and I don't know if you saw there's just a lovely, lovely series of videos, for it's basically the Hillary night send off because she hasn't retired from hockey, but this is her last
This is the
Olympics,
last
right?
Olympics, yeah.
Right. And so there's this, so Lee Steckline, Megan Kelly, all these other the players who have played with her for multiple Olympics, gives her this send off, whatever. But yeah, yeah, it was terrific game. USA dominated for the whole, for much of that game. Overtime is exactly what Canada wanted because 3-on-3 is an equalizer, right? But USA basically did not let that essentially they didn't let Canada capitalize on that. So
Well, that's one of the oldest cliche in sports. If the better team doesn't always win. The team that
No.
dominates the game doesn't win. If you can
No.
hold on
Yep.
and get it to
it's
a one
one-shot
bounce,
game, right?
yep.
Yeah, one-shot game, right?
A
So,
lucky bounce, bat line change, anything. But yeah, no, that was great. On the other hand, within a half hour of Team USA winning, I see that on the FNH chat, and I'm like, yeah, if Canada won, I wouldn't have been bummed, but I'm like, good. But then it came across my feed.
now, you know what? I am going to just cut you off right there because
Please do.
screw those guys. I'm going to talk about something else. Those guys don't deserve any airtime or discussion.
I want to ask you one question.
Yeah.
In 2006, 2007, the
Yeah.
NHL had a lockout year.
Well, that's 2004, 2005.
2005. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And going into that lockout year, the NHL had been growing and growing and growing. And we won't get into the whole lockout except to say they were not on national TV for 10 years. It took a decade, and I don't think the sport has gotten back to where it was. And maybe you follow it, so maybe it has. But it literally, the biggest shot themselves in the foot. They didn't have a lockout. They lost an entire season. An entire season gone. And they come out of that, they're on Versus, which wasn't really a real network. And it was this. I mean, I remember when we went to the Ducks Stanley Cup game, the Ducks games weren't carried locally. Like I had to go to a sports bar with a satellite dish that got a Canadian feed back then. We had a friend who worked selling board advertisement for the Ducks. They had to sell the board advertisement to Canadian Tire because the only viewership was Canadian.
Yeah.
With the bullshit that happened, how much does that set back the NHL? Because I know there's a lot of fans who are already, and especially,
I don't know that it's really like set. I don't know that it sets them back as much as this was an opportunity for a big gain, and they basically blew that opportunity. I mean, I think basically, it's as if the Olympics never happened, right? Everything that happened in this Olympics, was great up until all those minutes after the buzzer, right? You had the best on best. You had the two teams, despite the fact that it was kind of only best on best because the Russians weren't there. Because if the Russians were there, it might have been a different tournament. But still, you still had what they wanted, right? The NHL wanted USA Canada in the finals.
Yep.
And my God, on top of that, they got an overtime, right?
they got an overtime. Yep.
Right. And they got, of all things, they got the Americans winning, right? And this should have been this thing. This should have been the boom, right? And they basically squandered. It's not so much they set them back as much as they just squandered, that steps forward that they probably would have had.
Yeah. No.
It's really about that. So they're basically, it's as if they never went to the Olympics.
So it's also a net loss when you take into account the number of NHL athletes who are now on the shelf for playing in this tournament.
Yeah, but I mean that's here nor there. Right? I mean, it's like in the sense, right? I mean, obviously some key guys like Sidney Crosby being out is bad, right? I mean, there's a few players out, right, and that's bad. But still, I mean, that's but injuries happen all the time.
No, they do.
I just think that over. I mean, the thing that I think overall, right? I think the part where there was a potential for so much gain, and they just But I want to just, before we leave the Olympics, I want to shout out to the women's figure skating. I don't know if you know.
Yes.
So
yes. Figure skating is big in our house.
A couple weeks ago, I talked about Alyssa Liu, and my God, that she came home with double golds, right? Fucking beautiful story, right? But I don't know if you know the camaraderie between, and there's very specifically between the American women and the Japanese women. So I don't know if you saw any of that.
No.
So so the there's so many storylines, but another one of the storylines is that there's a Japanese skater Sakamoto Kaori, who is kind of a one of those long time established skaters. This is going to be her last Olympics. She announced it's going to be her last Olympics. She failed on her triple, and that's what was one of the reasons why Alyssa Liu was able to beat her out for the gold, right? And then out of nowhere, there was the third, the basically the top three that was expected were Sakamoto, Alyssa Liu, and I think Amber Glenn, who won the world championship. And maybe the second, there was another Japanese skater, but what ended up happening was that the 17-year-old Japanese skater came out of nowhere and had the skate of her life on the long program, right? And so when she got her scores, right, she basically was just sitting there looking at the scores. She's a 17-year-old, girl, right? I mean, and when I say girl, I don't, she's literally a girl, like still in high school. And she's looking at it and she's kind of trying to figure it out. And then, she sees that she had enough to get a bronze in her first Olympics. So she, puts up, points, 3 on her fingers and points to Alyssa Liu. Alyssa Liu comes running over and gives her a big hug. Even though that's the moment that Alyssa Liu won the gold, right?
Dude.
Because she didn't have enough to, pass Alyssa Liu. But, the fact that she goes over and, I mean,
that's a one. I mean, and talk about that the last podcast. The Mexican cross country woman who was, made the last Olympics.
Yeah.
It was in a terrible car accident. Comes back. I mean, those are the stories that you want out of this.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I saw
those camaraderie things. Those sweet. Yeah, those are the great.
I think
stories.
There was the Norwegian coach. There was a cross country event or something like that. A Norwegian coach sees one of the players broke his cane. So he basically gives a cane to that guy, even though that skier is obviously, competing with his, player for the medal, right? I mean, just, in many of the other places, great sports, display of that.
And let's face it, was it the '98 Olympics with the U.S. men's hockey team that set international? I mean, so the U.S. men's hockey team ever since 1980 and 1984, with 1984 team had the Fusco brothers from Harvard, and but ever since then we've been public embarrassment. So,
just kind of a coincidence, air quote coincidence. The brothers' dad was on that '98 Olympic team.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Piece of shit. The piece of shit's didn't fall. But yeah, I just warned her. It's like, if I'm a Canadian, if I'm an Ottawa Senator season ticket holder, and the guy who's the captain of my team is telling the U.S. president to shut down the northern border, do I really want that piece of shit wearing, the senator's crest, on am I going to the game?
It's a good thing no one pays attention to hockey in Canada, though, huh?
Yeah, it's exactly. It will blow over. I'm quite sure. it will go away.
Yeah. It's not going to go. Nobody's going to care.
So I'm going to give a shout out. My dad. I didn't make it. A scheduling thing. My family and you might not get this, Biff, but I'll fill in the blanks a little bit. My family had my dad's birthday dinner tonight in Boston. 3 weeks after his birthday, and they had it in Boston because his favorite grandson was taking the train up from college in Providence so he could meet them in Boston. Here's my problem with it. They decided to go to the Olive Garden in Boston. Okay, first of all, you're going to the Olive Garden. Mm-hmm. We'll call that exhibit number 1, Your Honor. Secondly, Joe, in Boston proper, can you maybe think of another place to go where the Italian food might be slightly better than the Olive Garden?
I think there's maybe one end of Boston you can go to. That's
I'm not even
north.
from Boston, right? North End, right? North End has all Italian food, right?
Dude,
I'm not even from Boston, and I know this.
So in 1992.
But you know what? Endless breadsticks.
in 1992, my first paid writing gig, it was the Post Gazette. It was a newspaper that had been in the North End for 100 years. And the year before I got my first writing job, I covered the Boston Fire Department, playing the Boston Police Department in a huge 10,000 person charity game. That newspaper, up until that point, had only been printed in Italian. It is that whole and but you are going to Boston. You are going to where the greatest Italian food, this side of,
it's not
Venice.
it's American Italian food, right?
No,
it is that.
No,
right?
it is
authentic.
No.
Is it
Off the boat Italian cuisine.
Okay.
So in college, I was dating this girl, and you had it wasn't a restaurant. It was in the basement. You could sit like 12 people, 3-4 tables. Truly, grandma is in the kitchen.
Right.
Dad is the maitre d', and the kids are busting the table. And you literally had to know somebody to get into this place.
Okay, one of those places. Okay.
And that's still there. It is still family recipes that they take to their grave. Like my aunt, honestly, my dad's a chef. But my aunt used to make this dish called pasta fazoux, and it was the greatest thing ever. My dad swears that my aunt gave him the recipe 100 times. It would come out good. It would come out close. Right. It was never the same. And my father insists that she went to her fucking grave. like there's something that she didn't tell him, and you're fucking going to the Olive Garden. Now, I don't want to say, with the exception of my brother-in-law and my nieces, that my family is the epitome of mayonnaise sandwiches, white trash,
right.
Velveeta cheese. But when you fucking choose to go an hour away to meet up for a family dinner, and you're choosing the Olive Garden, which is a truly stone's throw away, and most of the North End, they still have the cobblestone streets. I mean, happy birthday, Gordo. Many more to come. Happy 86. But yeah, so like I said, going to wrap this, except for the fact that I don't know if you guys have been following. I've been trying to be more active in the socials. I've posted a couple sketches.
I want to say, you know what? Your video editing and creation has gotten really, really good. I posted it on your last one, right? The one that about the at the gym, right? But so I posted a comment on that. But I just want to compliment you on how good you've gotten on creating those videos and editing and adding all that stuff to it. So I just want to call that out.
Well, Biff, I mean, literally, it's a labor of love. I'm getting better, but I'm trying to be more active on that. But I got, I have something coming up for a friend, Mr. Taylor, very soon, something specifically fun for him that I'll tell you about. But
I'm sure he's thrilled.
Well, no, look, I'll put the cart before the horse. I was in an elementary school last week, and I was flipping through. I was in the library, and there was this. Oh, maybe I moved it. There was one of those little sports books, like one of those first on Lance Armstrong from 2003.
Oh my God.
Now, I'm not saying that Lance Armstrong had gone on to be in the Epstein files, but he might be the biggest piece of shit not in the Epstein files. So,
right.
So I'm going to do it.
To be fair, right? There's a lot of assholes that never got invited.
Yeah, that's true. But I am like, look, is it censorship? Am I burning books? Am I everything that I preach against? There's an exception to every rule, and I'm doing the world a favor by now. Look, this book might have had dust on it if it wasn't squeezed in on a shelf, and it's a sad commentary that the school still has that many outdated books that you might go through and stuff like that, But am I doing the Lord's work? Maybe. But anyway, so where John was a big, bike guy, I was going to do that. But I'm gonna thank you both for jumping on. I will not give a parenting tip because you two have done such a better job than me. If you want to give a parenting tip, you go right ahead. But stay tuned for next week's podcast with Tanisha from LA. Again, thank you. Shout out for Ryan Shea last week. But gentlemen, thank you for jumping on and. All you
guys.
Oh no, Biff! I need your parenting tip. You and Joe.
Parenting tip? Are you kidding me? Oh, I will say one thing though. Um, I think that it's kind of like the general, be kind is always a good thing, right? So, my son recently quit one of his jobs. He had two jobs. He had one job with this company that basically boards, or it's like a doggy daycare, doggy hotel kind of a place, right? And that's a newer job. But he also had another job which he loved, where he essentially was doing one-on-one, with kids with special needs. And that's also another job that he loved. But I mean, he was working every day, right? So he on his dog job, right? He would leave the house at like whatever, somewhere between like 5:45 and 6:15 a.m., on 5 days a week. And then the other 2 days a week when he didn't have to do that, he still had the other job. And it was wearing on him. So, basically, he said, Dad, I'm tired. And just, what? And I said, what? You don't need to work every day, right? And I know that it's hard to, I know that you're attached to those kids or whatever, but you got to take care of yourself. And, kind of at some point, if you don't kind of take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to do either job. So he quit one of the other jobs, broke his heart, but still, so, but yeah, just, when you can, right? Be kind, right, to your kids. So there you go.
Agreed. Someday I'll do that. We'll see.
Be kind, rewind. By the way, that's a terrific movie, isn't it? Have you seen those guys?
I haven't seen Be Kind Rewind.
Be Kind Rewind?
No, I haven't seen it. No.
Oh my God. It's such a wacky movie, but it's terrific.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe I'll do that instead of going on the podcast next week. I'll be on assignment watching Be Kind Rewind. All right, yeah, we'll wrap it up. I just wanted to give a rest in power to one Robert Carradine, who sadly left this mortal coil. You might remember him as Louis Skolnick from Revenge of the Nerds. He was 71. Unfortunately, he had some issues that he couldn't deal with anymore, and it took a turn for the worse. But I rewatched Revenge of the Nerds in his honor this week, and 75% of it still holds up. And I watched it with my wife. She's like, she kind of wanted to watch it. I was like, oh, you want to watch Revenge of the Nerds? I mean, she's seen it before, but I just thought, maybe it was one of those things where, like the Three Stooges, you can't possibly, watch that with a modern view and whatever. But it's, still a great movie. Sad to see someone like that go. But, that movie did more for nerd culture than I don't think anything in the 20th century might have, done, to make nerds an acceptable, and also talk about neurodivergency, yes, all those actors were they were not neurodivergent maybe, and they were portraying, people on the spectrum possibly, but, I think aside from like the skeevy stuff, a lot of the story it holds up and has a good a moral tale to tell. So if you can get through some of the questionable parts, I would say watch Revenge of the Nerds. Part 2, not so much, and then it kind of falls off the cliff when it gets to 4. Yeah. Do the direct to Fox TV Night at the Movies, the mid-90s kind of stuff. But whatever. We will miss Robert Carradine. I would give him a 21 nerd laugh salute if it didn't hurt my throat. So what I will say in his memory is, don't forget.
You're up on one elbow, fishing shards and reassurance, deadpan in the shadow, simple curiosity. And the sons of suicide. Assault and shotgun. Not holding razor blade. I'm holding the balustrade. When I climb the stairs, if an accepted work, I'd be more or less free. There's a reaper in me. He's always prepared.